I'm your host, Jade.
And I'm your host, Emma.
And welcome to Lashing Out and Nailing Life. So today's episode, we're going to be focusing on quality friendships and
quality products.
Yeah, so they kind of complement each other. And it's a mix of what we want to be talking about, which is life in your 20s and business in your 20s.
Yep. Yes.
We're going to start out with quality friendships for any of you that aren't in business, but you still listen to and enjoy our podcast, because we're grateful for you and we want to give you insight as well.
Yeah.
So I think the first question is, how do you determine if it's a quality friendship?
I think quality friendships involve a lot of love, and to me that definition is that full acceptance, that not having to put a face on just because you're wanting to fit in or anything like that, and friends that can help motivate and support you in any aspect, whether it's personal life, business life, dating life, all of that. I think it's really important to surround yourself with positive people who kind of accept you for all of you, kind of in that same way with romantic relationships, having that kind of unconditional love.
And I feel unconditional love is even more important in friendships than it is in relationships, because the friends are the ones that are going to be there for you through everything. So yeah, I'm the same way with quality friendships. I'm looking for people who the give and take is fairly even. It's not always even, but you're there for them, they're there for you.
Right.
Just mutual support, mutual understanding, not having to pretend, not having to hide anything. I think those friendships where you have to pretend you're happy all the time are exhausting, because you're not happy all the time. That's not normal.
Right.
Yeah, just that mutual understanding.
Yeah, I think it's super important. And even just again, those little weird quirks that maybe you wouldn't even show your significant other, but you would show your friends.
Yeah.
I definitely have a couple friends that have seen the weirder side of me, than even now me and my boyfriend have been together forever, but in the beginning it was not, it obviously wasn't as like that, but yeah, having those,
Yeah, they're the people you can be most vulnerable with and most open with, and there's no judgment. There might be guidance and advice, but there's never any judgment.
And the judgment is positive judgment.
Yeah, it's helpful. It's never accusational.
Well, never that that, oh, you're so draining because you're so much or whatever, or you're so loud, or you're so this, and you don't want to feel like that. You want to have friends that support you and understand what you're going through, or are willing to understand what you go through.
And I feel the highest quality friendships are the ones that have the boundaries and the solid communication. I think my pet peeve with friends in the past has been a lack of communication and almost a fear of telling a friend what they're doing to upset you. And I think in a quality friendship, you should never be afraid to be hey, you did this and this upset me, and can we talk about it?
Yeah.
They're gonna
it really is just like dating, huh?
It really is. Truly, friendships are like dating, and that's kind of what
Almost
I said in our last episode. You have to approach friendships the same way you approach dating.
And again, almost with more
intention.
Yeah. Just because again, they are gonna hopefully be there through all the things. Yeah, super important to have those. And again, when running, it's touching into the business now. When running a business, it's good to have friends that are really understanding, that if you don't get back to them right away, or you are exhausted, or you don't feel like going out, they don't hold that against you because you are doing so much kind of behind the scenes.
Or if something has even popped up for your business that wasn't planned, they have to be able to adjust to that, because as a business owner, sometimes there's just things that maybe you haven't thought about in advance, and you're oh no, this has to be done by the end of the day. I know sometimes that'll happen with my retail taxes. It'll be the day they're due, and I'm oh, and I have to sit and do these.
That just reminded me I need to do my retail taxes.
Or even just tax season in general. Sometimes doing my actual taxes for my business, because I do everything my own because I'm crazy and I use QuickBooks and TurboTax.
That overwhelms me.
I just do everything by myself. And last year, actually no, I think last year it wasn't as bad, but 2023 I think I sat doing my business taxes for 6 hours, because there was one thing that TurboTax, it was my mileage for my car. They were you have to put this in, and I'm but I can't write that off.
Yeah,
I can't write that off. And it took forever to finally get it to understand that I couldn't write it off. So that ended up taking up 6 hours of the day. And at the time that was an ex, not a friend. but he got so pissed off that I wasn't able to see him when I originally told him I would be able to see him. And I'm like, well, it's not my fault. Like, it's...
Well, and again, like, that's nothing you could help. Like,
No.
it's not like, the thing that gets me that shows non-quality friendships is, like, if you have plans and then, in our case, like, you decide to book clients, like, that would be a crappy thing versus having clients to begin with in this scenario and not being able to do something, or, like, that, like, something coming up where you're like, oh, crap. I can't do that. I have to, do this obligation or I'm going to get $1 million fine.
Yeah. And that comes into the understanding of it. Like, it's situational, like those cancellations. And one of the things that's important to me is I have to have friends that are able to plan. I can't do last minute things because I try to, going into the business side of things, like if I have a day where I have nothing scheduled with friends or dates or family, like I am booking that day up with stuff I need to do for my business. So if last minute you're like, hey, can we go on this hike, or can we go check out this place for lunch or dinner? It's like, no, because I've kind of scheduled out my entire day and I don't want to set myself back. And that's just because I'm a planner. Not everybody is a planner.
Yeah.
And like, I don't expect all my friends to consistently be planners. Like if they do last minute things, they just have to know that I'm not the friend for that.
Right. Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like, I have to plan things out. And even though, which we touched on this in our boundaries episode, even though I'm the more flexible person in a lot of my friend groups now, it's still nice just to know, like, oh, I'm doing this, like, oh, we're going to go to this, like, event or this thing, and it's on a day that I typically don't work, but sometimes I take people, or, oh, I was going to do something else. Like, just having it there.
Yeah.
It's like, that way I know we're always, like, that's happening, and I can't plan it. I don't want to plan anything else over that. I don't want to double book or overbook myself. And just working that into your schedule and stuff.
Yeah, and that kind of lines up with, like, one of the things for quality friendships with me is, like, aligning in values. And that was a big thing that I was differing with in friendships last year, which caused a lot of them to kind of fall apart. It's like, if you don't have the same values in life, it's really hard to be compatible, and that goes along in relationships as well as friendships.
Yeah.
They really go hand in hand. And I feel like if you're not, I don't know, it's kind of one of those things where I didn't really acknowledge it until like the past 1 or 2 years, but it's like, you have to approach making a new friend the same way you approach dating.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, you're most likely going to end up closer to them. And like slipping into business again, it's kind of the same with clients, because I see my clients every 2 to 3 weeks. I see some of them more than I see my friends. So it's my business and it's their time. Like, I spend an hour and a half to 2 hours with these people. Like, the initial appointment is 3 hours. And if we don't align in values, or we don't have enough mutual interest or common ground, how are we supposed to spend that time together and like have a conversation and it be good for either party? Like, it gets draining when you're around people that don't align with your values.
I think one of my big values that bleeds over into relationships too is like that hardworking ambition. Like, most of my friends are trying to achieve goals of some kind, whether it's continuing their education or starting or running their business, or just like bettering themselves in some form of way. Because when I date people who aren't hardworking, or when I'm friends with people who aren't hardworking, and it kind of again touches in those goals about like making friends with people that don't constantly complain without fixing it, is I'm going to make it as vague as possible because there is a chance that they will see this. Shade. But I have a person in my life who it's really sad because we grew up together. And as we got older, they started kind of falling into that complaining route and it just made it impossible to be friends, and it made it to where when I go back to North Carolina, I don't even want to see them anymore.
No, because it's draining to be around. They suck your energy.
Yep. And the thing that got me the most was the last time we sat down and had a conversation. I was so stressed. I was working 6 days a week because I was part-time at my studio, part-time at a salon. I wasn't making a ton of money because I was splitting a really low income job with a no income job. And I had all these things that I was doing, but like I was working towards a goal.
Yeah.
And all they could do was complain about this job that their dad had basically gotten for them. And it was a good paying job. They just had to sit at a desk and answer the phone. and they made a whole big deal about like, it's so miserable and I hate this. And I was like, well, you should find something you like. Well, I don't really want to. Like, it was just one of those. So that was happening. And then like now when I go back, it's almost like they're still stuck in high school, and like the delusion the delusion of like what they expect from dating, what they expect from life is just not realistic anymore. And it physically drains me to just sit there and like, and nod.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to see them anymore. And like, even if they reach out and tell me like Merry Christmas, I don't even want to reply, because I just know it's going to turn into, I mean, oh my gosh, another thing that happened was I had a client out here who, again, I'm keeping this super vague, who was doing a job that she was going to be retiring from. And it was a super cool job. Wish I could tell you about it. And I knew that this person, my friend, I was like, that would be her dream job. Like, she went to school for something like this. Like, this would be her dream job. And I contacted her and I was like, you could live with us. Like, my parents like love you. Like, you could come live with us and get this job, because she's looking for someone to take over for her when she retires, and you would love this. And she was just like, well, I don't like to fly. And I was like, okay, this is the lifetime, like, job of an, like, lifetime opportunity, like, crazy. And I was like, well, maybe you could drive out here. Like, it's a 3-day drive. Well, I don't think I could be in the car that long.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, well, you can stop.
Like, this could change
you
your
don't have
life.
to, like, this could change your life. Like, this could be a forever job, or just something super cool on your resume to do.
Yeah.
But I just can't do it. I just can't do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, what? Like, if somebody told me, hey, I'm trying to think of someone really, Harry Styles wants you to do his nails, but you have to pay for your plane ticket to Italy, I would do it.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, okay, savings, here we go. Like,
yeah. No, that's like if Sabrina Carpenter wanted me to do her lashes. I'm on that plane. Wherever they need me, I'm there.
Like, and it was just that thing, because then she got stuck in a job that she didn't really like, and she got stuck in a job that was like, okay, and like did what it needed to do. It was a job. And I was like, you could have been working out here for this super cool company, doing this super cool thing that you would be you would be such a perfect fit for.
Yeah.
But you won't. And so, you gotta, cut those people out.
Yeah, because they're draining and they hold you back, because you absorb the energy that you're around and the energy that's put towards you. And if it's negative, you're going to become a negative person, or you're going to lose your drive, or you're going to enter. And it's not even necessarily that they're comfortable with what they're doing. It's just they're so afraid of change that they don't, or they're afraid of risk.
Right.
But like, the best things in life come from risks. Like, you can't expect to live a fulfilling life if you never take any risks.
Yeah.
And just alone in that, starting a business, that's a giant risk. It's not always guaranteed to work out. And there are definitely safer times to do it, or like versus the riskier times to do it. Both Emma and I were lucky enough to start our businesses while we still had the support of our parents and we were living at home. Whereas like, I have friends who are paying their own rent, and it's like, yes, they'd like to start a business, but they just can't. That's completely different. They still have the goal. They want to achieve it. They want to have, like, save up for it.
Right. Working towards
but
it.
They have that drive. They just aren't in a situation where it's currently feasible for them to do it.
The example of the thing that would get on my nerves with that is the constant, well, I want to start a business, and then buying a $1,500 purse and being like,
exactly,
what were you doing with that? Like, come on, you just said. Or even with like going back to some of my friends from high school who I'm not really friends with anymore, that kind of like, well, I want to move out and I want to do this, but like, ooh, I'm gonna buy this really fancy car first. And I'm like, but the car you have works fine, and your other goal, like, why are you doing this? Like, none of this makes sense. That wasn't a goal that you needed.
Like, you have to think about the order of things. Like, for example, I wanted to move out. I did have enough savings for a down payment on a house. Like, I had a solid enough that I could have got a house, and this was back in 2022. So housing was a little bit more reasonable than it is now. Still not great because everything spiked during COVID. But it's like, well, I also want to run my own business, and it would make no sense to move out and then struggle to start my own business. Yeah. And then on top of that, kind of going off of the car thing, my situation was different. I had an electric Kia Soul EV, which a lot of people don't even realize existed, including Kia dealerships, which I think is really funny. Yeah, uneducated. but I had to get a new car if I'm to ever move out, because that car battery got so bad that it would only charge to like 70 miles.
Yeah, and that's different. Yeah, I think
And then
stuff like that. And that's
exactly,
like a
but it's doing
necessity.
stuff in order. Exactly. So like I had to do opening the business first, and then I had to get a car that I can move out with, and that's going to last me a long time. Yeah, exactly.
Not get stuck because
Like,
the battery's dead.
Well, the issue is like if I move to an apartment, I could never properly charge that car. That was one of the things I was thinking about. Or if I got a condo, even over getting a house or a townhome.
Or it would just limit where you could, because you'd have to get a place with
within that certain
electric.
radius.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. Like certain radius because of the battery.
I
and
mean,
then
I had a perfectly good car, and I got, this one's new to me. It's not new, just because I had front wheel drive, and like trying to
in Colorado, that's just
in Colorado that's awful, and like trying to get somewhere, because I'm 7 minutes from my studio, just trying to go 7 minutes in the front wheel drive car in a snow that's like sometimes we get those really heavy, thick, slippery snows.
Yeah.
Then I couldn't even get there, but then other people could, so then but I'd have to close because of my car. So I did, like, again, kind of that same thing, like you're doing things that's different.
You have to prioritize things, and I think like that's one of the things that makes a quality friend, is having somebody that's super aware of where priorities lie, because they have to be understanding of their own priorities. I have hair in my mouth.
Oh, we love.
Okay, it's staying there. They have to be aware of like their own priorities for their life in order to not complain.
Yeah.
But then they also have to be aware of like their friends' priorities and understanding how that's going to affect the friendship.
Yeah. Yep. I definitely, the friends that I have are the friends that are hardworking, working towards goals, ambitious, understanding. I have friends who I have a friend that's in nursing school right now. She's about to graduate, and like that's a really, like, that changed her schedule completely when she went in there. And we all, like, that little friend group that I have, we're all still together because we all understand like that she's busy, and we talk when we can, and we get brunch when we're all free and we haven't seen each other, and like, and when we go to hang out, it still feels like we, like, it hasn't been any time and things like that. And like, again, that like understanding of like I would never complain about that, because I wouldn't want someone to complain about that with me.
Yeah.
Like,
I think something else that's important for quality friendships, because it does make a huge difference, is having different friends for different areas of your life. Because not all friends align with every aspect of your life. Like I have my business friends who are also in business, and they're who I can go to for those things. And then I have my church friends, I have my country dancing friends, and then I do have overarching friends that are going to help me in every aspect, because they go to church too. They will go country dancing with me. And like maybe they're not in business, but they care enough about my business that they're willing to talk to me about it, and they're willing to help me with marketing. But I think categorizing friends is really helpful in building quality friendships, because then you know which aspects of your life they're going to be more helpful.
I definitely think it's okay to have, especially like for me being more introverted, smaller friend groups are better. So having like multiple small friend groups where I don't have to be overwhelmed with 15 people every time we want to hang out, then that is also something I found works for me too.
The crude reality of being a girl is if you have 15 friends in one big friend group, I can guarantee 50% of them don't like you. I know you all don't want to hear that, but I can promise you 50% of those girls do not like you.
Yep.
And they're talking about you behind your back, and they all
bigger
have
the
some
friend
kind
group,
of issues.
the more catty it gets, I think.
Yeah, and like that's one of the things I did last year, which was the biggest mistake, or maybe a huge blessing, because I cut out negative people from my life. I don't know, depending on how I want to reflect on it now. But I introduced, I think, 4 friends from different areas of my life to each other, and it turned into an absolute disaster really fast, to the point of I don't talk to any of them anymore.
Yeah.
Because it brought out a side of them that I had not seen from them when I was hanging out with them one-on-one. And like, to that degree, I think it was a positive, because you learn this other side of somebody, and you're like, I didn't even know I was interacting with this kind of person until this other person brought out that personality. And I think that's like one of the benefits of isolating friend groups.
Yeah, and again, going into that, it just shows that like I feel like I'm the same person in every friend group, but we just talk about different things.
Yeah, well, you should be the same.
Right. And so like when I hear stuff like that, it makes me think like, oh, they're the people who are like putting on this mask and trying to be like this person to other people, and they're not actually being the type of person that they want to be, and be the type of person you want to be. Just like with finding clients, like the friends that appreciate you will find you.
Yeah, and I feel like there's a balance with security and insecurity. But if you make friends with those super insecure people, and it's okay to be insecure, like we all have insecurities, but overarching being completely insecure about the entire person you are, it's going to breed a toxicity because you're going to mask, you're going to hide who you are. So it's like one of the big things to building quality friendships is building a quality relationship with yourself first. Because until you have an understanding of you, your trauma, your mental health, all the different aspects of who you are, you can't even begin to align with the right people because you're not true to who you are, which is a hard pill to swallow. And I'm sure we've all faced it at one point in our lives, whether you're currently facing it or if you faced it a year ago or 5 years ago, depending on when it was for you. I went through my transformation March of 2023 is when I started my like hardcore therapy, again for another episode. But like it was a really hard pill to swallow that I had turned into somebody I wasn't almost, and then going through one grieving process turned into an additional grieving process of this person that I had become that I was letting go, which was an amazing thing and beneficial to me in so many ways. But it's just like so hard to accept that I had turned into somebody I wasn't just because I was so unhappy with who I was and the situations I was in and like what I had allowed happen to myself. But going through that and then going through the realization of last year, because 2023 bled into 2024, so I carried those friends into 2024, but I had made those friends while I was still becoming secure in myself and growing out of those insecurities and becoming who I want to be. So 2024 was a rough year because I was still surrounded by people that were more attracted to who I wasn't. And they were more attracted to a broken person, which is very alarming, but...
Hero complex.
I don't know if it was a hero complex. I don't think they had a desire to fix me. I think
that's
felt
even worse.
better about themselves.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was more an ego issue of they felt better because they knew I was so down in the dumps that they just felt better about themselves.
That's like, woo, wee, wee, wee.
I have a hero complex. I love broken people. I love trying to fix you.
But again, a lot of these are qualities that apply to dating.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so many are these is like, you have to love yourself before you can love someone else. And I think in real friendships, you have to like love them in all their sides and all their things. And you have to do that when you're dating as well. Like you want someone who's going to love you for all your things, and you want to love them for all their things. So,
well, the big thing Eric and I talk about is it's like you have to be able to support each other no matter where you are in life. Like you have to be able to fill your cup, like for your closest friends. This doesn't apply to all your friends, but like your 2 to 3 closest friends, it's so important to be able to balance the filling your cup and their cup at the same time. Like if I am going through a major breakup, but they're going through this crisis, you can't expect them to be there for you through your major breakup if you're not listening to their crisis at the same time. It's having that balance of being like, you're listening to me, I'm listening to you.
Right. Or just understanding the like, oh, you need space too because of this awful thing.
Yeah. So depending on the friendship, either you're gonna like support each other and communicate about both at the same time, or you can draw that boundary of it's like, well, you're going through this, I'm going through this. I think it's better we find different people to talk to about it.
Right.
So it's just having that understanding. And it's like Erica and I have this understanding that it's like, if I am broken, but you are also struggling, you can still talk to me. If anything, sometimes it's a nice distraction to be like, oh, I'm not the only person with a crisis.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes it's kind of nice to listen to somebody else's problem.
For sure.
Because I feel like some people have this fear of it's like, well, I know like you're going through a breakup right now and I didn't want to add this to that. And it's like, well, you can just ask me. Like, it's just that simple question of it's like, hey, I have something going on. Are you in the headspace to listen right now? That's all it takes. And then you just set the boundary of, yeah, I can totally listen or no. Yeah. One of my big things in friendships is like, if they're venting to me, I'm like, hey, is this venting for me to listen or is this venting for advice?
Right.
Because that is such an important thing to have decided at the beginning of the conversation. Because if somebody is just venting to vent because they just need to complain and you start giving them advice, you're just going to piss them off. Sometimes that's not what they want. Just
like dating.
Oh, guys could take the biggest note from that one. Guys are the worst. Guys always cut to the, oh, but you could do this, this, and this to fix it. And it's like, well, thanks, but that's not what I wanted right now.
Right. Or you're like my boyfriend and he does the listening and he's like, oh, you're just venting. And I'm like, no, I need you to tell me I need help. And he's like, but you're such an independent, good, big girl. Like, big girl. Like, come on. And I'm like, no, help me. Tie my shoes. But yeah, surrounding yourself with people, again, that like understanding, that give and take, because again, like, this is something I even learned. I went through we all had our times during COVID, and mine was fixing myself. And that was when my big realization of so much like hit me, of like my baggage and my trauma and anything that I hadn't dealt with from past relationships and what I wanted in the future. And just like seeing that and being able to communicate to myself what I needed, and was extremely life changing. And it also helped me weed out a bunch of friends. Like a bunch of friends. I think I left beauty school with two friends, and they weren't even at beauty school. Like they were from a separate job, but and it made me realize, I should be prioritizing my friendships over my romantic relationships. And I'm the type of person who I used to get into a relationship and like change my entire being so that person would like me. And during that realization of romantic relationships, I realized, I had been doing that in friendships too. Like, everybody watches this show, I'm gonna force myself to watch a show that I hate, just so I can talk to them about it. And then I realized, like, no, I don't need to do things like that. Like, I don't need to. I know I went through a really big phase where I thought I was gonna wear all these designer clothes because I was on a sports team where all the girls were always talking about, and like, it just wasn't who I was. Yeah. So now to have, even though I have 3-4-ish separate friend groups that are all kind of in the same, like, we all have the same like mindset, and I don't know if that went anywhere or made any sense because I ramble, but yeah.
And then I think just the last point I wanted to at least touch on with this one is it's like overarchingly friendships should be 50-50. They're not always going to be 50-50, and I want to be super clear on that. Expecting like friendships and relationships to always be 50-50 is this horrible overarching idea that's out there, because they're not always going to be 50-50. For example, if you're going through such a severe crisis where it's like you can only give 10%, then sometimes the friend has to step up and give the 90%, or vice versa.
Yeah, I saw the cutest little picture meme thing the other day that was a couple, and it was them having fun together, and they had little plants like on their shoulders. And so it was like them having fun together, and the plants are happy. And then when one of them, the plant was wilting, the other one was watering its plant, like watering the plants. And then the other person, it flips to the other side, and they're watering their plants. And then kind of like what they do when they both need their plants watered. And like, it was really cute, and I thought it was a good analogy for like, yeah, sometimes, you know, you're not always gonna be able to water their plants, they're not always gonna be able to water your plants, but when you can water each other's plants,
it's just having that mutual support. Like, if you're in a relationship where you feel like you're constantly giving and you're getting nothing in return, and like that's anywhere from, for some reason you always end up paying, and like they're never paying you back for things, or they always need you to drive them somewhere but they're never contributing to gas money, or they're never offering to drive you, or they're always coming to you for help with their problems, but when you go to them they shut you down. It's like they're allowed to shut you down sometimes, but like not all the times. But also, one of my pet peeves that I've had with friendships in the past is it's like I would go to them for help with things and they would always help me. That's not my fault. If there was any point where they had an issue and they couldn't help me, it would have been very easy for them to set the boundary of, hey, now's not a good time. I think you should find somebody else to talk to about this. And it's like I've had that with friends before where I've gone to them all the time and then they've gone to me for help, and I just haven't been in a mental capacity, like even that, like possibly just that hour, maybe not even the entire day, but I have been brave enough, because I struggle with setting boundaries. I've been brave enough to text back and be like, hey, like I'm struggling right now. I don't think I'm in the right headspace to like help you out or listen to you right now. I'm sorry, maybe tomorrow or maybe at a later time. And it's like, then they freak out because they're like, well, I listen to all of your problems and I help you with everything. And it's like, I'm not ungrateful for that. Like, I'm very thankful and I'm very grateful for that. But I have never put you in a situation where you are forced to listen to me. I have never cornered you in a room and said, hey, you have to listen to this. You have to help me with this. And it's just, That's one of the things I'm always talking to my therapist about, because it drives me crazy when people are like, well, I always listen to you. And I'm like, well, you didn't have to.
Right.
And it's like, that's your own free willpower there that you're not using correctly.
Right. And again, just like dating. Need a button. Yeah, I think, yeah, because again, and I've had to do this too, like that same, like, hey, I'll have to either get to it later, or I can't, like, I just can't do this right now. And I had friends that would be like, what do you mean? And I'd be like, all you do is come to me and complain. You don't want advice for it. You don't want help for it. And I can't handle this right now because I'm going through something else that, like, I also need to work on.
Yeah.
So
there's, like, boundaries and communication. Those are, like, two of the things that really do build a quality friendship, because unless you can communicate properly, there's no quality.
Well, and like, again, you want to be able to be open. The communication part, you don't want to feel like, well, if I tell them this, then they're not going to want to be friends with me anymore.
And if they choose to not be your friend, they're not supposed to be your friend.
Right. Or my thing is, like, I can sometimes take over things. Like, I love to host. I'm a big hoster. I might have already said that. And I am always like, oh, let's just have it at my house. I'll cook. I'll do all this stuff. And I want my friends to be able to be like, well, I really wanted to have it at my place this time, or I really wanted to do that thing, and not, like, resent me for doing the things that I wanted to do because they didn't speak up for it.
That's the thing. Like, resentment builds up.
Yeah.
If you can't be open and communicate with each other, there's going to be problems.
Right.
And, like, that's one of the things I try to get out of the way at the beginning of friendships now, is it's like, hey, like, this is an open communication thing.
Safe space.
Yeah. And one of the big things is, as soon as you have a problem with something either party is doing, you bring it up then. Because if you bring it up in 2 or 3 weeks when suddenly they are upset with you, that is using it against them. And that's not their fault that you didn't bring it to their attention, that it hurt them, like, that it hurt you when they did it.
Just like dating.
Relationships are relationships, whether it's a friendship or a significant other, I feel like.
I just like to keep pointing it out because I feel like a lot of times people will do that. Like, even if they're, like, doing great, they are ace at making friendships, they don't apply it to their dating. And I'll be like, girl, you are so good at setting boundaries with us. You got to set boundaries with your man. Or, like, you need to communicate this to him, and you shouldn't be nervous about it, because if he's not going to like you for that, then, like, you don't need to know
that now.
Right. Like,
earlier than later.
You don't want to, like, oh my gosh, I'm in so many, like, mom groups where they talk about how they're divorcing their husbands after, like, 30 years of marriage because they finally had it with this thing that he never, like, they knew about when they were dating.
Yep.
And I'm like, you can't, like, people can grow, again, like, people can grow and change if they want to grow and change, and if they're aware of, like, hey, I do need to communicate better. But if they refuse to, there's no, like, it's beating a dead horse. Like, there's no,
a person is just a person.
Right. There's only so much, like, you're never going to be able to, like, fix them.
Like, something that's important for all my friends to know is I'm a harper. Like, I will harp on a situation for, like, a week or two before I'm over it. And if that's going to bother you, that's
an
okay.
Aries thing.
I'm a Taurus, though.
Oh, you are. I was like, that's an Aries thing because we both have April birthdays, but you are a Taurus.
Yeah, well, it might be the stubbornness.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm the kind of person that I will probably complain about the same situation for a week or two. It's not going to be forever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, like, one of those things that my friends have to accept me for. And if somebody doesn't accept me for that, that's fine. Because, like, I'm at a point where I just know that's how I am. And it's like the friends that I do have are okay with it.
Right.
And if they are tired of hearing it, they'll shut me down and I'll go to a different friend.
Right. You just have to find the friends that love the tea, because that's...
Oh, yeah. It's like, it's the same situation, but it's always me reflecting on a different aspect. I'm like, oh, but there was this. And then I'm like, oh, but there was this. Oh, and they did this. And
I have other friends who are like that, too. Especially if it was, like, a really rough, like, relationship end, friendship, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. That they are like, oh my gosh, I just remembered this horrible thing that happened. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Why didn't you? That's wild.
It's like, you ignored that?
Yeah.
The rose glasses were that strong?
Oh gosh.
Rose glasses are such an issue, guys.
And I know it's hard too, especially, like, making friends these days, especially if you don't have a lot of friends and you go into making your own business. But again, we've talked about this in a previous episode for sure, is like, clients will become, you see them every two to 4, maybe even 5 weeks. Like, you see them more than most of your actual friends. And I've definitely like reconnecting with people in my life who have become clients, who are now friends, like Jade or some of our other like business girlies. It's like, the people will come to you. Like, you'll find it. You don't have to shove yourself into, a square block into a circle hole sort of thing.
Just go where you feel happy.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's where you're going to attract the like best people, because it's really been over the past year when I've started focusing on what makes me happy, which it's sad that it took me until I was 24 to do that, but nonetheless we're finally here. And it's like, focus, like, my business makes me happy, so people who have a mutual interest in beauty overall, or lashes or skincare, I know that they're going to be a good fit for me. If our personalities mesh, we automatically have a common interest. Church, I love my girlies that I have my Bible study with. Like, I love every single one of them, and we're at different levels of friendship right now because I only met them all August, I think, is when September is when it started. So like, we're still like not all the way there, but we all have that mutual interest, and we all see each other once a week because it's a once a week thing. Country dancing, I go once a week, so I've met people there. So it's like, once you put yourself in those places where you are happiest, that's when you're gonna find your people. And that's also how you find your different circles. And it's so nice to have those different circles, because if you're a harper like me, I have all these different circles to complain to. So then I'm not overwhelming just one friend. Like, Emma only hears it when I'm with her. I don't typically text Emma to annoy her. Erica's the one who puts up with everything. God bless her. And my country friends hear it when I'm dancing with them. Bible study hears it when I'm with them. But it's just like, having those different friend groups is always great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because then you're not overwhelming the same people all the time.
Yeah. And I think too, like, yeah, because it can sometimes, if it's all the time, then maybe it would be a lot. So it is good. And just like different views on different subjects and things. Like, I have my friends that run businesses. I have my friends that I used to work with. And I have my friends that, like, even though, or like, I only see them twice a year, and, or none a year. My best friend I never see, and we rarely text, but I still love her, and she's my favorite. So, and just being able to like bounce ideas off of like those different types of personalities, because they're
that's like one of the best parts about having different circles, is you get different perspectives consistently, and that makes such a huge difference.
Yep. Just like dating. No, that didn't really apply there. I'm just kidding.
Unless you want multiple boyfriends, but please be clear with your partners that that's what you're doing.
Oh gosh. Well, and that side note, talking about dating, guys or girls, like, if you are seeing someone and you like them, you need to figure out what you want to do with that, because I am sick of my friends getting into relationships with men, or women, again, who like don't make it clear what they want, and then 3 months go by like clockwork, and they're finally like, hey, we've been hanging out and having fun for 3 months. What do you want? And they're like, oh, nothing. And you're like, wait, what?
It's always 3 months.
Yeah.
It's always 3 months.
That's why my mom always told me, never sleep with anyone until after 3 months, which is hard, but possible. And, yeah, because then they aren't getting, what is it, that milk for free or whatever, the cow for free, whatever it is.
I'm saying consistently ever since like I like entered dating again, it's been 3 months.
Yeah.
After 3 months, either like one said they didn't want a relationship, and he did tell me that over and over again in his defense. So I'll like kind of give him that. But he treated me like his girlfriend. Like, I went to all of his holiday parties. He bought me tons of, like, anything I asked for, he pretty much bought me. I told him I'd never been to the Grizzly Rose. He took me. I told him I'd never been to a concert at Red Rocks. He took me. So my bad for thinking that maybe he did want a relationship. And, like, you're taught growing up that actions speak louder than words.
Right.
Now I don't really trust that. And it's like the other one.
I think it's because they're playing a game. Like, they're kind of playing a game. Like, they don't even know, because they're so dumb. Like, they don't even know it's a game. They just think that it's gonna, hey, I do this and it gets me what I want. That's kind of neat, you know? Because I just had another friend who had a similar thing. Like, he was gonna take her to this super fun bouquet making class. What guy friend takes you to a bouquet making class and then proceeds to tell you a few weeks later, "Oh yeah, I'm dating someone new and let me tell you how great that date went." Like, what?
One of the most confusing situations I had is I thought I was just hanging out with this guy. In my defense, he never said they were dates. One of the reasons I thought we were just hanging out with friends is because we would both actively talk about our dating apps and the dates we were going on. And then after the fourth or fifth time hanging out, he was like, I just am wondering, but like, would you, like, you're my girlfriend, right? And I'm like, what? Well, we've been talking about our dating apps.
That was like a reverse Uno card there. Like like he was he
well,
was
I
the
was
one
just
who was
confused
like,
because I'm like, well, we're both talking about our dates and our
Right.
dating profiles, and you're sending me pictures of your outfits that you're wearing on dates with other girls. Like, excuse me for
and
being.
I don't know if it's because guys have a different idea of what the word dating means, because I know like once I got out of school, it started having that like talking phase, dating phase, relationship phase, and now like with a younger brother who's in high school, like there's even more phases where you're like you're friends but you're talking, but then you're dating and you're talking, but then you're dating, like whatever. So I don't know if like guys are like, "Oh, dating isn't anything official. Dating isn't anything
If
real."
you talked to my therapist, dating is not official.
Right.
You're supposed to date multiple people at once. So until
Which
there's
is why, like, I feel like that's already like
Which
weird,
I
and depending on the situation.
don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with that. I'm not questioning it if you're sleeping with all of them just for safety reasons.
Right.
Not for any other reason, just safety. If you're safe, it's fine. But I think it's just one of those things where maybe I would have thought we were going on dates if he wasn't talking to me about his other dates. I think that's when it gets confusing.
Yeah, I think that's weird.
I think it's very weird.
I think if you're dating someone and you're telling them about the other dates, that's weird. Because like even if you're
That's why I thought we were friends.
Yeah, even if you're dating multiple people, I would still think you would want that person to feel like you were the only person.
No, I think it's important to bring up that you're seeing other people as well, but I don't think you need to be going into detail or sharing outfits.
Dating, I am not the type of person to date multiple people at once because it overwhelms me and I immediately get feelings for people, and even if we are just like casually dating, I need to do that kind of like one at a time. I'll talk to multiple people at once. Like when I was on dating apps, I would talk to multiple people at once and set up multiple like first dates, but it wasn't like then I
You're not
kind
getting
of
to
like,
fourth and fifth
it was
dates
kind of
with multiple people.
Yeah.
Well, I've never been good. Sorry if my therapist ever listens to this.
I hope she does.
Never.
I hope your therapist listens to our podcast, Jade.
Oh no, she'll have different things to talk about with my therapy sessions. I have never ever been able to casually date. I just can't do it, and I don't know if it's coming from like a hyperfixation standpoint. Like I get hyperfixated on one person, so all the others get blown off. It's just the idea of going on dates with multiple people and having the same conversations over and over almost is just overwhelming and too much. So like in the same way, like I'll talk to multiple people, but I can't date multiple people.
Yeah.
And I also feel like after the first date, I kind of have an idea if this is going to work out or not.
And that's why I could set up kind of like first, occasionally second dates with multiple people. But by then you're like hanging out more and they're becoming a part of your life. And like after that, it does kind of feel like a weird, like betrayal sort of thing to me.
Well, it's also balancing and remembering who you've told what. Like, I'm sorry, if you can do that and you're good at categorizing, that's great. But I have this fear that I would start telling somebody something and they'd be like, yeah, you already told me this. And I'll be like, oh, my bad. I thought I said it to that person. That's embarrassing.
Or you go, don't you remember when I told you that? And they're like, no. And you're like, oops.
Or, don't you remember when we did this? And they're like, oh, didn't do that with me. And I'm like, oh, dear.
Maybe the real red flag is us dating guys that look so similar we can't tell them apart.
We're the same name.
Oh gosh, no. I have a rule. I don't date any. If I even kind of sort of know that I have a relative with the same name as a guy I'm dating, I won't. It could be great uncle. Like I won't date them. And if they have the same name as someone I've dated in the past, I won't date them either. So
see, that's getting hard because I only date guys with common names.
You got to branch out.
I need to start dating guys with exotic names.
I also haven't dated a lot of people, so.
Hi everyone, it's Emma. At this point in filming the episode, our audio cut out and we're not really sure what happened, but luckily there was only 5 minutes left in the episode where we basically just wrapped everything up, so that's what I'm going to do now. All of the links to our social media will be in the description of this episode. Be sure to follow us on all of those so you can keep up with what we're doing on the podcast and everything going on in our business. Any other links or information you might need from this video will also be in the description. And be sure to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to us on so you can be alerted of our next episode. Till then, we'll see you next time. Bye!